The massive Nexus station floated in the darkness between stars like a glowing city made of metal and light. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports every day. Today was different, though. Today the entire galaxy was watching and waiting for something that had never happened before. The humans were coming. Admiral Nixara stood on the command deck of the station. Her scaled green skin reflected the blue lights from the control panels around her. She had been waiting. For 3 hours now. The message from Earth had said their ship would arrive today, but they had not said when. This worried her. Every other species that joined the Galactic Confederation sent their biggest and most powerful ships first. They wanted to show their strength. They wanted to prove they belonged among the stars. "Still no sign of them, Admiral," said her aide. The young reptilian officer checked his screens again. "Our sensors show nothing approaching from the direction of their home system." Nixara nodded but said nothing. She was thinking about the strange message Earth had sent. Most new species sent long lists of their military ships and weapons. They talked about their great victories and powerful technology. The humans had sent something much shorter. They said they were sending one ship with their best people to talk. That was all. In another part of the station, Zarathel sat in the council chamber. The elven woman looked much younger than her 3,000 years. Her silver hair fell to her shoulders, and her violet eyes held the wisdom of ages. She had seen many species join the Confederation over the centuries. Something about these humans felt different. Their communications had been polite but confident. They asked questions about galactic culture and history instead of demanding to know about military strength and territory. "The humans worry me," said Cathari Prime Vexana from across the chamber. The insect-like alien clicked her mandibles as she spoke. "They speak of peace but show no strength. In the hive we know that only the strong survive. If they are weak, they will drag down the Confederation." Zarathel turned her ancient eyes toward the Cathari representative. "Perhaps their strength lies in something we have not yet seen. The wise do not always show their power immediately." "Wisdom without power is worthless," Vexana replied. "If they cannot defend themselves, they cannot defend the Confederation. The galaxy is not a safe place for the weak." Before Zarathel could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The arrival alert meant a new ship had appeared on the sensors. Everyone in the chamber stood and moved toward the viewing wall. The massive transparent barrier showed them the space around the station. Far in the distance, a small light was growing. "Brighter. That cannot be them," said War Chieftain Gruktar. The massive alien looked like a cross between a bear and a rhinoceros. His people, the Thaxians, believed that size and strength were everything. "The ship is too small. Where are their battleships? Where are their carriers and destroyers?" The light grew larger as it approached. Soon they could see it was indeed a ship, but it was nothing like what they expected. The human vessel was sleek and silver with smooth curves instead of the sharp angles most military ships used. It was about the size of a medium transport ship. Definitely not the mighty warship they had all imagined. "This must be a joke," Groktar growled. "Or an insult? Do the humans think so little of us that they send a cargo ship to meet us?" Zarathel watched the approaching ship with growing interest. Something about its design spoke to her. It was beautiful in a way that most military vessels were not. Form and function seemed to blend together perfectly. This was not the work of a species focused only on war and conquest. On the command deck, Admiral Nixara was having the same thoughts. "Scan that ship," she ordered. "I want to know everything about it." Her officers worked quickly. The results confused them even more. "Admiral, the ship has weapons, but they are defensive only. It has strong shields and armor, but nothing designed for attacking. Most of the ship seems to be laboratories and living quarters." "Living quarters for how many?" Nixara asked. "Sensors show approximately 50 life forms aboard." The Admiral shook her head. 50 beings to represent an entire species. Most first contact missions brought hundreds or thousands of delegates. The humans were either incredibly confident or incredibly foolish. The human ship requested permission to dock at Port 7. This was one of the smaller docking bays usually reserved for diplomatic vessels. Nixara granted permission but ordered extra security to the area. She still was not sure what to make of these strange newcomers. 20 minutes later, the airlock opened and the humans emerged. Admiral Nixara had positioned herself to get the first look at Earth's representatives. What she saw surprised her again. The group was led by a woman with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with silver trim. No elaborate decorations or symbols of rank covered her chest. She looked around the docking bay with curiosity rather than fear or aggression. "I am Captain Lisa Morgan of the UES Explorer," the woman said. Her voice was steady and friendly. "We are honored to meet with the Galactic Confederation and hope to learn much from all of you." Behind her stood a diverse group of humans. Admiral Nixara noted that most of them were women. Another oddity: most species sent their largest and most intimidating representatives to first contact meetings. These humans had sent scientists and diplomats. Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward next to the captain. She carried several strange devices and what looked like gifts. "We have brought samples of our art and science to share with you. We hope you will share yours with us as well." Groktar had arrived at the docking bay along with several other alien representatives. He looked down at the small human delegation and snorted. "Where are your warriors? Where are your war chiefs? How can we negotiate with beings who send only females and scientists?" Captain Morgan looked up at the massive alien without flinching. "We sent our best people for making peace. Is that not what these negotiations are for?" The simple question hung in the air like a challenge. Around the docking bay, aliens looked at each other with confusion. In their experience, first contact was about showing strength and establishing dominance. The idea of sending diplomats and scientists instead of warriors was completely foreign to them. Zarathel had been watching from a viewing gallery above the docking bay. She made her way down to meet the humans in person. Something about their approach reminded her of old elven ways from before the Great Wars, ways that her people had forgotten long ago. "Welcome to Nexus Station," she said as she approached the human group. "I am Counselor Zarathel of the Elven Domains. Your arrival has created quite a stir among the Confederation members." Captain Morgan smiled and extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "We hope it is a good kind of stir. We came here to make friends, not enemies." As Zarathel took the offered hand, she felt something she had not experienced in centuries: hope. These humans might be small in number and lacking in obvious military might, but there was something powerful about their confidence and openness. Perhaps the galaxy was about to learn something new about what real strength looked like. The main conference hall of Nexus Station had never hosted such an unusual first contact session. Representatives from 7 major galactic powers sat around a massive circular table. Each delegation had brought dozens of advisors and hundreds of holographic displays showing their military might. The humans sat in their assigned section with just 5 people and a few simple data tablets. Commander Rosa Martinez studied the room with tactical eyes. She had trained for years in military strategy, but this felt more like a courtroom than a negotiation. Every other species seemed to be trying to intimidate rather than communicate. The Cathari had projected images of their vast hive fleets. The Thaxians showed videos of their warriors conquering distant worlds. The Draconian Empire displayed star maps of their territory, spanning 3 galactic arms. "The humans have brought no displays of power," observed Hive Queen Zethara. Her voice echoed strangely as it came from the collective consciousness of billions of Cathari minds. "How can we assess their value to the Confederation without knowing their capabilities?" Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her notes. She had been studying the various alien cultures since their arrival. "We brought something we thought might be more useful. Information about Earth's biosphere and our scientific discoveries. Would you like to see our research on faster-than-light communication?" Several aliens exchanged glances. The idea of sharing scientific knowledge before establishing military credibility was unheard of. War Chieftain Groktar slammed his massive fist on the table. "We do not care about your science until we know you can defend it. Show us your fleets. Show us your weapons. Prove you are worthy to stand with us." Captain Morgan leaned back in her chair. She had dealt with aggressive personalities before, during her years in space. "War Chieftain Groktar, we appreciate your concern for security. Perhaps you could tell us what threats the Confederation faces that require such massive military preparations?" The question caught the Thaxian off guard. No new species had ever asked about Confederation problems before. They usually focused entirely on their own status and benefits. There are pirates in the Outer Rim, he said slowly. Border disputes between member species, the usual challenges of maintaining order across the galaxy. Engineer Kate Phillips had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. Have you considered that some of those problems might have non-military solutions? On Earth, we found that many conflicts came from resource shortages or communication failures. When we addressed those root causes, the fighting often stopped. Sylvandra, the young elven apprentice diplomat, found herself leaning forward with interest. She had studied thousands of years of galactic history, and most of it involved one war after another. The idea that conflicts could be prevented rather than just one was fascinating to her. You speak of addressing root causes, said Elder Zarathel from her position at the head of the elven delegation. This sounds like very old wisdom that my people once followed. Tell us more about these non-military solutions. Dr. Amy Foster activated one of her data tablets. The holographic display showed images of Earth's history. We had many wars in our past. Some lasted for generations. But we learned that most fights started because people needed things they could not get. Food, water, land, or just respect from their neighbors. When we found ways to share resources and communicate better, the fighting became much less common. Senator Vachetti from the Ethereal Collective drifted closer to examine the human data. The gaseous being's form shifted and swirled as it spoke. Your history shows you still have conflicts. You have not eliminated war entirely. How can you advise species that have mastered military science for millennia? Commander Rosa Martinez stood and walked to the center of the room. Senator Vachetti, you are absolutely right. We still have conflicts on Earth, but we have learned to solve most of them without destroying entire planets. When we do fight it, is usually to protect people, not to conquer territory. She activated her own tablet and displayed a different kind of star map. Instead of showing military positions, it highlighted trade routes, research stations, and communication networks. This is how we see the galaxy, not as territories to control, but as communities to connect. Every species has knowledge and resources that could help the others. War makes sharing harder. The room fell silent as the aliens studied the human perspective. Their star map looked completely different from the military tactical displays they were used to seeing. It showed potential for cooperation instead of preparation for conflict. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Admiral Nixara's voice came over the communication system. All delegates, please remain calm. We are experiencing a critical failure in the station's main power distribution system. Engineering teams are working to resolve the issue. The lights in the conference hall dimmed, and several of the alien holographic displays flickered and died. Emergency power kept the basic life support running, but many of the advanced systems went offline. This was exactly the kind of crisis that could turn a diplomatic meeting into a disaster. How long until repairs are complete? Asked Counselor. Zarathel Admiral Nixara responded with obvious frustration in her voice. Our engineers estimate 12 to 18 hours minimum. The quantum resonance chamber that powers the station has developed a feedback loop. We have been trying to fix this problem for 3 standard cycles without success. Kate Phillips looked at her captain with raised eyebrows. Lisa Morgan nodded slightly. The human engineer stood and addressed the room. Would it be helpful if our engineer took a look at the problem? Sometimes a fresh perspective can spot things that others miss. War Chieftain. Groktar laughed harshly. Your primitive technology cannot solve problems that our advanced engineers cannot handle. This is exactly why we question your presence here. With respect, War Chieftain, it cannot hurt to try, said Kate calmly. If I cannot help, then you have lost nothing but a few minutes. If I can help, then everyone benefits from having power restored. Quickly, Admiral Nixara was desperate enough to try anything. She authorized Kate Phillips to accompany the station's chief engineer to the power core. The alien engineer was a crystalline named Jextor, whose silicon-based intelligence processed information at incredible speeds. He had been working on this problem for days without success. The quantum resonance chamber requires perfect harmonic alignment, Jextor explained as they walked through the maintenance corridors. Even the smallest vibration or electromagnetic interference disrupts the field stability. We have tried 47 different calibration sequences. Kate studied the massive chamber through the viewing port. The quantum field generators hummed and sparked with barely contained energy. Have you tried turning it off and on again? She asked. Jextor's crystalline form flashed with what might have been amusement or annoyance. That is the first thing any engineer attempts. The chamber requires a 40-minute shutdown sequence, followed by a 60-minute restart process. We have performed this procedure 11 times. What if we do not shut it down completely? Kate suggested. What if we rotate the field generators in sequence while maintaining minimal power? Like restarting one cylinder at a time in an engine instead of shutting down the whole motor? The crystalline engineer went very still as he processed this idea. In seconds, he ran thousands of calculations through his silicon matrix brain. The theoretical framework is sound, but the risk of cascade failure is significant. If the rotating, shutdown sequence fails, it could destroy the entire station. Kate nodded. But if we do nothing, the station stays crippled for days or weeks. The diplomatic meeting fails and everyone goes home angry. Sometimes you have to take calculated risks to achieve important goals. Jextor contacted Admiral Nixera and explained the human proposal. After several minutes of discussion with her senior staff, the Admiral authorized the attempt. Kate Phillips worked alongside the alien engineer to implement the rotating field generator restart sequence. Her human intuition combined with his crystalline precision to create a solution neither could have developed alone. Within 2 hours, the station's power was fully restored. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with perfect stability. In the conference hall, the alien delegates watched their holographic displays flicker back to life. But now they were looking at Kate Phillips and the human delegation with new respect. "Impressive work, Engineer Phillips," said Elder Zarathel. "You succeeded where our most advanced minds had failed. Perhaps human science has more to offer than we initially realized." Captain Morgan smiled. "Engineer Phillips is talented, but the real success came from working together with your people. Jextor provided the technical knowledge and Kate provided a new approach. Cooperation often achieves more than competition." As the formal negotiations resumed, the atmosphere in the room had changed. The humans had proven they could contribute to Confederation success in ways that had nothing to do with military strength. Several alien delegates began asking questions about Earth's scientific achievements and social systems. But not everyone was convinced. War Chieftain Groktar still demanded to see humanity's true military capabilities. Senator Vashati remained suspicious of human motives. The galaxy had operated on principles of strength and dominance for millions of years. The idea that cooperation could be more effective than competition challenged everything they believed about survival among the stars. The Galactic Confederation had decided to test humanity. After 2 days of unusual negotiations and unexpected problem-solving, the alien powers needed to understand what these strange newcomers were really capable of. The test would be simple in concept, but complex in execution. A crisis scenario that would reveal how humans responded under pressure. Dr. Nina Clark sat in the human delegation's quarters, reviewing psychological profiles of the various alien species. Her background in crisis negotiation had prepared her for difficult situations, but nothing quite like this. The Confederation had presented them with what appeared to be an emergency requiring immediate action. "The scenario is straightforward," Admiral Nixera had explained that morning. 3 ships in distress in different locations. Limited rescue resources, hostile territory. You must choose how to respond and justify your decisions to the tribunal. Other species had already presented their solutions. The Thaxians chose the ship with the most military value and left the others to their fate. The Cathari calculated which rescue would benefit the hive mind most. The Draconian Empire selected based on political advantage. Each decision followed predictable patterns of self-interest and power maximization. Commander Maya Johnson spread the tactical display across the conference table. The 3 distressed vessels appeared as red dots on the star map. Ship Alpha carried Elven diplomats returning from a peace mission. Ship Beta held Cathari scientists with research that could cure a devastating plague. Ship Gamma contained refugees from a destroyed world, including many children. "Classic trolley problem," said Dr. Nina Clark. "Designed to test our moral priorities under pressure. Do we save the diplomats and preserve political stability? Do we save the scientists and their life-saving research? Do we save the refugees because they are innocent civilians?" Captain Morgan studied the scenario carefully. Something about it felt wrong to her experienced military mind. "Maya, run a detailed analysis on the distress signals. Check the timing patterns and energy signatures." Commander Johnson worked quickly with her navigation equipment. Within minutes, She had results that made her frown. Captain, the distress signals are too perfectly spaced. The timing is artificial. The energy signatures match Nexus stations. Communication array, not actual emergency beacons. Dr. Foster had been examining the supposed plague research data from Ship Beta. The disease information they provided does not match any known biological patterns. The genetic sequences appear to be artificially constructed for this scenario. Dr. Clark nodded as the pieces fell into place. This is not a rescue scenario at all. This is a test to see how we prioritize when forced to choose between different types of value: political, military, scientific, and humanitarian. The human delegation spent the next hour analyzing not just the false crisis, but the motivations behind creating it. When they returned to the main conference hall, they faced a tribunal of 7 alien species, all eager to hear humanity's solution to an impossible choice. Humans of Earth, announced Elder Zarathel in her role as tribunal chairman. You have studied the crisis scenario. 3 ships in distress. Resources to save only 1. Which do you choose and why? Captain Morgan stood and addressed the assembled aliens with calm confidence. We choose to save all 3 ships by addressing the root cause of why they are in distress in the first place. War Chieftain Groktar slammed his fist on the table. That is not the scenario. You must choose only one. Resources are limited. Choices must be made. Dr. Nina Clark moved to the center of the room. War Chieftain Groktar, we understand the constraints you have given us, but we have analyzed the scenario and found something interesting. The crisis is artificial. The ships are not actually in distress. This entire situation has been created to test our decision-making process. Murmurs of surprise and confusion rippled through the alien delegates. The tribunal members looked at each other with obvious discomfort. Their carefully constructed test had been exposed in ways they had not anticipated. Senator Vashati's gaseous form swirled with agitation. Even if the immediate scenario is artificial, the underlying question remains valid. In real crises, you cannot always save everyone. How do you make those terrible choices? Commander Johnson activated her tactical display and showed a different analysis of the situation. Senator Vashati, you are right that terrible choices sometimes must be made, but we have learned that many apparent crises are actually symptoms of larger problems. Instead of choosing which ship to save, we would ask why 3 ships ended up in distress in the same region at the same time. She highlighted several data points on her star map. According to Confederation records, this sector has had 17 similar incidents in the past 2 years. Ships passing through develop mysterious technical problems. Emergency rescues are required. Resources are stretched thin, responding to crisis after crisis. Dr. Foster joined the presentation with her scientific analysis. We studied the technical failure patterns from previous incidents. The problems all originate from exposure to exotic radiation from an unstable pulsar in this region. Instead of repeatedly rescuing ships that get damaged, we could install warning beacons and establish safe passage routes that avoid the radiation. The tribunal sat in stunned silence. No species had ever analyzed their test scenario this thoroughly. More importantly, no one had ever questioned whether the scenario itself represented the best approach to problem solving. Elder Zarathel leaned forward with ancient eyes that seemed to see through time itself. You suggest that prevention is better than reaction, that solving root causes is more effective than managing symptoms. This sounds like wisdom my people knew long ago, but have forgotten in recent millennia. Hive Queen Zethara spoke with the voice of billions. The hive mind calculates efficiency in all things. Your approach shows superior resource allocation. Less energy spent on repeated rescues. More energy available for productive activities. Why have we not considered this method? Captain. Morgan looked around the room at faces both alien and familiar. Sometimes when you are used to thinking one way, it becomes hard to see other possibilities. We humans have made this same mistake many times in our history. We used to think military strength was the only way to solve international problems. It took us centuries to learn that diplomacy and cooperation often work better. Dr. Clark moved to stand beside her captain. The test scenario assumes that sacrifice is necessary, that someone must lose for others to win. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if we can change the rules of the game instead of just playing it better? War Chieftain Groktar stood to his full, imposing height. You speak of changing rules as if reality bends to your wishes. The universe is harsh. Resources are limited. The strong survive, and the weak perish. This has been true for billions of years across countless worlds. Dr. Foster calmly faced the massive alien. War Chieftain Groktar, you are right that the universe can be harsh. But intelligent beings do not have to accept every harsh reality as unchangeable. We can use technology and cooperation to make life better. We can prevent problems instead of just enduring them. Sylvandra, the young elven diplomat, had been listening with growing excitement. She stood and addressed the tribunal with passion in her violet eyes. The humans speak of possibilities my studies suggest existed in our ancient past, before the great wars, before the age of competition, when elven civilization focused on growth and discovery instead of conquest and control. Her words caused a stir among the elven delegation. Ancient history was supposed to stay buried. The old ways had been abandoned for good reasons. But now a human delegation was suggesting that perhaps those old ways had value after all. Senator Vashati drifted closer to the human group. Your analysis is intellectually interesting but theoretical. You have never faced real galactic-scale crises. You have never governed star-spanning civilizations. How can you know your cooperative methods will work on such a massive scale? Commander Johnson smiled and activated one more display. Senator, you raise an important point about scale. We would like to share some information about Earth's response to our own global challenges. Climate change, resource depletion, and international conflict threatened our entire species' survival. We solved these problems not through military conquest, but through unprecedented cooperation between former enemies. The holographic display showed Earth's transformation over the past 2 centuries. Renewable energy networks spanning continents, international space programs that pooled resources from dozens of nations, global communication systems that allowed instant translation between any languages, scientific research collaborations that accelerated discovery beyond anything possible by individual nations working alone. This is how we prepared for our journey to the stars, Captain Morgan explained. Not by building the biggest weapons, but by learning to work together on challenges too large for any one group to handle alone. The galaxy faces problems that affect everyone. Climate disasters in one system, resource shortages in another. These challenges require cooperation across species boundaries. Elder Zarathel stood slowly and walked to the center of the room. Her ancient voice carried weight, accumulated over millennia. In 3,000 years of life, I have seen the Confederation grow larger, but not necessarily wiser. We have added more species, more territory, more military power. But our problems have grown as well. Perhaps it is time to consider that our approach itself needs examination. The tribunal session had become something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of judging humanity's worthiness for membership, the established powers found themselves questioning their own methods and assumptions. The humans had not just passed the test, they had revealed that the test itself represented limited thinking. As the formal session concluded, delegates from various species approached the human delegation with private questions and requests for more detailed discussions. Change was beginning to stir in the ancient corridors of galactic power. The question was whether traditional forces would embrace this change or fight to prevent it. The changes began small, but spread quickly through Nexus Station like ripples in a still pond. Dr. Helen Torres had been working in the medical bay treating minor injuries and ailments among the various diplomatic delegations. What started as routine medical care had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The Thaxian respiratory condition should not be possible to treat, Dr. Torres explained to the gathered alien medical staff. According to Confederation medical databases, their lung structure is incompatible with most therapeutic techniques, but human medical science approaches disease differently than your traditional methods. She demonstrated the treatment she had, developed by combining human surgical techniques with crystalline precision technology and Cathari bioregeneration compounds. The result was a procedure that could cure what had been considered an incurable genetic disorder among the warrior species. Jextor, the crystalline engineer who had worked with Kate Phillips during the power crisis, watched the medical demonstration with fascination. Dr. Torres, your approach combines incompatible technologies in ways our specifications said were impossible. How did you determine these combinations would be safe? We tested them carefully in simulation first, Helen replied. But the key insight was realizing that incompatible does not mean impossible. It just means no one had found the right bridge between different approaches. Sometimes solutions come from connecting ideas that seem unrelated. Lieutenant Claire Adams had been working on a different kind of bridge building. Her communications expertise had revealed fundamental problems with how the various species understood each other. Translation technology could convert words, but it missed emotional context, cultural nuances, and philosophical frameworks that shaped meaning. When the draconian representative says duty, they mean absolute obedience to hierarchy, Claire explained to a mixed group of alien communications officers. When humans say duty, we mean responsibility to principles and people we care about. Same word, completely different meanings. No wonder negotiations get confused. She had developed new translation protocols that preserved cultural context alongside literal meaning. The result was communication that felt more natural and led to fewer misunderstandings. Several species had already requested copies of her protocols for their own diplomatic missions. Princess Airwin had been watching these developments with growing excitement. The young elven royal had studied galactic history extensively and recognized something her people had lost long ago. She approached Elder Zarathel with a proposal that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. Honored Elder, I believe we should formally propose a new type of alliance structure based on cooperation rather than hierarchy, she said. The humans have demonstrated that their methods produce better results than traditional approaches. We could learn from them. Zarathel looked at her young protege with ancient eyes that had seen too many wars and too many failed attempts at peace. Princess Airwin, change is always dangerous, especially change that challenges fundamental assumptions about how power should work. Are you prepared for the resistance this proposal will generate? I am Elder. Our current approach has given us millions of years of the same problems: war, resource conflicts, territorial disputes, and technological stagnation. The humans offer a different path. Even if it fails, we will have learned something valuable. If it succeeds, we could transform galactic civilization. In the Cathari delegation, something even more unusual was happening. Collective Mind Beta 7 had been assigned to study human psychology and social structures. Prolonged exposure to human thinking patterns had begun producing unexpected effects in the hive mind consciousness. I have begun experiencing individual thoughts, Beta 7 reported to Hive Queen Zethara. Concepts and ideas that do not originate from the collective consciousness. This should not be possible according to our understanding of Cathari neurology. The Hive Queen's response carried confusion and concern from billions of linked minds. Explain these individual thoughts. Are they harmful to hive cohesion? Should we terminate this research assignment? The thoughts are not harmful, Queen. They are creative. I have developed ideas for improving hive efficiency that no other consciousness units have considered. Individual thinking appears to generate novel solutions that collective processing cannot achieve. The humans may have discovered something valuable about the balance between group cooperation and individual innovation. This report sent shockwaves through the Cathari collective. For millions of years, they had believed that individual consciousness was primitive and inefficient. The possibility that it might actually enhance problem-solving capabilities rather than hindering them challenged their entire social structure. Even General Thax Moore had begun reconsidering his assumptions about human military capabilities. The massive Thaxian commander had initially dismissed human defensive philosophy as weakness, but careful analysis of their tactical thinking revealed sophisticated strategic concepts he had never encountered. They do not fight to win, he explained, to his aide. They fight to end fighting. Their goal is not victory but peace. This changes every aspect of military planning and resource allocation. He had begun studying Earth's military history and found patterns that impressed him. Human forces often achieved victory against superior numbers through superior coordination and innovative tactics. More importantly, they had developed methods for turning enemies into allies after conflicts ended. Perhaps there is strength in their approach after all, he admitted privately. Conquering territory is temporary. Building lasting alliances creates permanent security. However, not all reactions to human influence were positive. A coalition of conservative alien powers had begun meeting in secret to discuss what they saw as a dangerous threat to galactic stability. Senator Vashati led these discussions with growing alarm. The humans are disrupting established patterns that have maintained order for millennia, the gaseous being argued. Their cooperative philosophy sounds appealing, but it threatens the power structures that prevent chaos. If traditional hierarchies collapse, what will replace them? War chieftain Brutus, a Thaxian military leader aligned with conservative factions, expressed even stronger concerns. My people respect General Thax more, but his fascination with human tactics is dangerous. Military strength must remain the foundation of galactic order. If we embrace human weakness, we invite conquest by species that do not share their peaceful ideals. The conservative coalition began planning actions to limit human influence before it could spread further. They saw the growing interest in cooperation and innovation as threats to stability rather than opportunities for improvement. Traditional power structures had served them well, and they had no intention of allowing alien newcomers to undermine those structures. Meanwhile, the progressive factions continued to grow. Princess Erwin had formally submitted her proposal for a new alliance structure to the Elven Council. Several Cathari collective minds had requested permission to experiment with individual consciousness development. Dr. Torres had been invited to establish joint medical research facilities with 3 different species. Admiral Nixara found herself caught between these competing factions. As station commander, she was responsible for maintaining order during the diplomatic proceedings. But the changes happening around her were unprecedented and unpredictable. "Captain Morgan," she said during a private meeting, "your people have created more disruption in 1 week than most species cause in a century of membership. Some delegates view this as positive change. Others see it as dangerous instability. How do you recommend we proceed?" Lisa Morgan considered the question carefully. "Admiral Nixara, we never intended to disrupt anything. We came here hoping to learn from more experienced civilizations. What we found was that our different perspective might be useful to others as well. Change is always challenging, but it does not have to be destructive." "The conservative factions believe otherwise," Nixara replied. "They are discussing actions to limit your influence. Some have suggested that humanity should be denied Confederation membership entirely. Others propose restrictions that would prevent you from sharing your technologies and methods with other species." Dr. Foster joined the conversation with scientific data she had been collecting. "Admiral, we have been analyzing the various species' responses to our presence. The negative reactions seem to correlate with investment in existing power structures. Species that benefit most from current systems show the strongest resistance to change. Those with less political influence are more open to alternative approaches." Commander Martinez added her tactical assessment. "This pattern suggests the resistance is not really about whether our methods work. It is about protecting existing advantages that change might eliminate. The question becomes whether the Confederation values innovation and improvement or stability and tradition." As the formal diplomatic sessions continued, the underlying tension between progressive and conservative factions grew stronger. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. The humans had demonstrated that cooperation could be more effective than competition, that prevention could be better than reaction, that different approaches to old problems could yield better results. But demonstration was not the same as implementation. Changing the way an entire galactic civilization operated would require more than proof of concept. It would require overcoming millions of years of established thinking and entrenched interests. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for that kind of transformation, or whether traditional forces would succeed in maintaining the status quo. The next few days would determine not just humanity's fate, but the future direction of galactic civilization itself. The Conservative Alliance had decided to act. Senator Vashati, War Chieftain Brutus, and representatives from 4 other traditional species had spent days planning their response to what they saw as the human threat. They demanded an emergency session of the full Confederation Council to address humanity's application for membership. "The humans have demonstrated dangerous instability," Senator Vashati announced to the assembled delegates. "They question established protocols. They encourage other species to abandon proven methods. They threaten the very foundations of galactic order that have maintained peace for millions of years." Admiral Nixara had received their formal complaint, but found herself in an impossible position. The conservatives demanded immediate action to limit human influence. The progressives argued for expanded cooperation with Earth. Both sides looked to her for leadership in a situation no station commander had ever faced before. Captain Morgan sat with her delegation in the observer section watching the debate unfold. They had expected resistance, but the intensity of the conservative reaction surprised them. After a week of productive exchanges and successful collaborations, they had hoped the galaxy might be ready for new approaches to old problems. They are afraid, Dr. Nina Clark observed quietly. This is not really about whether our methods work. This is about what happens to existing power structures if cooperation becomes more important than competition. War Chieftain Brutus stood to address the council with the full intimidating presence of a Thaxian warrior. The humans claim their single ship represents Earth's best diplomatic effort. But what of their military capabilities? What of their true intentions? No species sends only 50 beings to represent an entire world unless they are hiding something. He activated a holographic display showing military projections. Intelligence analysis suggests Earth possesses advanced technology they have not revealed. Their ship's defensive capabilities exceed specifications for a diplomatic vessel. Their scientists solve problems our experts cannot handle. These facts indicate deception. The accusation hung in the chamber like a challenge. Several species nodded in agreement with the Thaxian assessment. The idea that humans were concealing superior technology made more sense to them than the possibility that cooperation could be more effective than competition. Ambassador Ruth Bennett had arrived at Nexus Station that morning aboard a second, human vessel. Her credentials identified her as Earth's senior diplomatic representative with authority to speak for the entire human government. She stood and requested permission to address the council. Honored delegates, I am Ambassador Ruth Bennett, representing Earth's Global Confederation. I have been authorized to respond to questions about humanity's capabilities and intentions. We welcome this opportunity to address any concerns about our application for Galactic Confederation membership. Senator Vashati's gaseous form swirled with anticipation. Ambassador Bennett, we demand full disclosure of Earth's military capabilities. Show us your true fleets. Reveal your hidden weapons. Prove that your peaceful approach is not an elaborate deception designed to lower our defenses. Ruth Bennett smiled with the confidence of someone who had spent decades negotiating with difficult partners. Senator Vashati, I am happy to provide complete transparency about Earth's space capabilities. You are absolutely correct that the UES Explorer is not our most advanced vessel. She activated her own holographic display showing detailed specifications for Earth's space fleet. The assembled aliens studied the data with growing confusion. The human fleet was larger than expected, but not overwhelmingly powerful. Their technology was advanced, but not revolutionary. Their military doctrine focused almost entirely on defense and disaster response. Earth maintains 47 interstellar vessels, Ambassador Bennett explained. 31 are scientific research ships, 12 are cargo and passenger transports, 4 are medical hospital ships equipped for emergency response. The Explorer represents our most advanced diplomatic vessel designed specifically for first contact situations. War Chieftain Brutus examined the data with military expertise. Where are your battleships? Where are your planetary assault vehicles? How do you defend your territory without weapons of conquest? We defend our territory by making sure our neighbors have no reason to attack us, Ruth replied. Earth's defensive strategy focuses on early warning systems, automated defensive platforms, and rapid response capabilities. But our primary security comes from maintaining positive relationships with other nations and solving problems before they become conflicts. Dr. Amy Foster stood and joined the ambassador at the center of the chamber. We brought more than military specifications. We brought information about Earth's scientific achievements that could benefit every species in the Confederation. Her holographic display showed research data that made several alien scientists lean forward with interest. Breakthroughs in energy, generation that could eliminate resource conflicts, medical techniques that could extend lifespans across multiple species, communication technologies that could connect distant worlds instantaneously. This is what Earth considers our greatest strength, Amy continued. Not our ability to destroy, but our ability to create. Not our power to conquer, but our capacity to discover. We believe knowledge shared benefits everyone. Princess Erwin rose from the Elven delegation section. Honored council members, I formally request permission to present a proposal that has been under consideration by progressive factions for the past several days. Elder Zarathel nodded her approval. The young princess had worked tirelessly to build support for her ideas among delegates from multiple species. Now she would discover whether the galaxy was ready for fundamental change. "I propose the establishment of a cooperative development initiative," Erwin announced. "A new type of alliance structure based on shared resources, mutual aid, and collaborative problem-solving. Membership would be voluntary. Benefits would be proportional to contribution. Success would be measured by collective advancement rather than individual dominance." The proposal detailed specific mechanisms for cooperation. Joint research facilities that pooled scientific expertise from multiple species, emergency response networks that could coordinate disaster relief across star systems, cultural exchange, programs that promoted understanding between different civilizations. Hive Queen Zethara spoke with the voice of trillions. The Cathari Collective has analyzed this proposal extensively. Mathematical models indicate superior efficiency compared to current competitive systems. Resource allocation improves by 37%. Conflict probability decreases by 62%. Research advancement accelerates by 49%. Her endorsement carried significant weight. The Cathari were known for precise calculations and logical decision-making. If their analysis supported cooperation over competition, other species would take notice. General Thaxmore had been studying human military philosophy for days. His assessment surprised everyone, including himself. The human approach to conflict resolution shows strategic depth that traditional military doctrine lacks. They achieve victory by eliminating the conditions that create war. This represents advancement, not weakness. Even some conservative delegates began reconsidering their positions. The evidence was becoming difficult to ignore. Human methods consistently produced better results than traditional approaches. Their technologies could solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Their philosophy offered hope for reducing the constant conflicts that drained resources and caused suffering. But Senator Vashati refused to concede. These proposals sound appealing, but they ignore fundamental realities about the nature of intelligent life. Competition drives evolution. Conflict creates strength. Hierarchy maintains order. Remove these forces and civilizations become weak and vulnerable. Ambassador Bennett addressed this objection directly. "Senator Vashati, your concerns about strength and vulnerability are valid. But consider this. Earth faced an extinction-level threat from our own industrial activities. Climate change could have destroyed our entire civilization. We survived not through military might, but through unprecedented cooperation between former enemies." She displayed data about Earth's response to global warming. International agreements that had seemed impossible became reality when survival was at stake. Competing nations had pooled resources to develop solutions no single country could have achieved alone. The result was not weakness, but resilience that made humanity stronger than ever before. "This is how we prepared for the stars," Ruth continued, "by learning that our greatest challenges require our greatest cooperation. The galaxy faces similar challenges: climate disasters, resource shortages, disease outbreaks. These problems affect everyone regardless of military power or political status." Arch-Elder Sylvaneth had remained silent throughout the debates. At over 5,000 years old, she was the most ancient being present, and her words carried weight, accumulated across millennia. When she finally spoke, the entire chamber fell silent. "I have lived through the rise and fall of 7 galactic civilizations," she said with a voice like distant starlight. Each believed their methods were eternal and unchangeable. Each discovered too late that adaptation is necessary for survival. The humans offer us something we have not seen in my lifetime: a chance to grow beyond our limitations instead of being trapped by them. The ancient elf's endorsement shifted the momentum decisively toward the progressive position. Species that had been undecided began expressing support for the Cooperative Development Initiative. The Conservative Alliance found their support eroding as delegates reconsidered the evidence. War Chieftain Brutus made one final attempt to rally opposition. "You speak of cooperation as if it guarantees peace. But what happens when we encounter species that do not share these ideals? What happens when aggressive civilizations see our cooperation as weakness to exploit?" Captain Morgan stood and walked to the center of the chamber. "War Chieftain Brutus, that is an excellent question. Earth has encountered aggressive nations, and we have learned how to respond effectively. Sometimes defensive force is necessary, But we have also learned that most aggression comes from fear, insecurity, or desperation. Address those root causes, and the aggression often disappears. She paused and looked around the chamber at faces both alien and familiar. We did not come to the galaxy to teach anyone anything. We came to learn from civilizations far older and more experienced than ours. What we discovered is that our different perspective might be useful to others as well. We are not asking anyone to abandon what works for them. We are asking for the chance to work together on challenges too big for any one species to handle, alone. The final vote was closer than progressives had hoped, but decisive enough to create lasting change. The Cooperative Development Initiative was approved by a majority of Confederation members. Humanity was granted full membership with the unusual distinction of being the first species to join primarily for their diplomatic and scientific contributions rather than their military capabilities. As delegates began filing out of the chamber, Elder Zarathel approached Captain Morgan with ancient eyes that seemed to hold starlight. "Your people have accomplished something remarkable, Captain. You have helped an entire galaxy remember how to dream of better possibilities. The real work begins now as we learn to transform those dreams into reality." Lisa Morgan looked out through the chamber's viewing ports at the stars beyond. Somewhere among those distant lights, Earth waited for news of humanity's first steps into galactic civilization. They had come to the stars not as conquerors but as partners. Not to impose their will, but to offer their perspective. The galaxy would never be quite the same. "We measure strength by what we build, not what we can destroy," she said quietly. "I think the galaxy is about to discover just how strong cooperation can make us all."